when we cancel somebody, when we say, you're done, you're dead to me, there is no room for growth on our side from learning from somebody who sees things differently than us, but also no room for redemption on their side.
I'm Lindsay P. Brackett.
And I'm Christy Ann Hunter.
And you're listening to A Rough Draft Life, where we're all making it up as we go along.
Okay, Lindsay. So last episode, we were talking about social media a lot when we were talking about authenticity. And I just find that kind of funny because today I want to talk to you about something I saw on social media.
Of course you do. Because, you know, it is where we spend some of our time.
It is. So this was actually a discussion about Huckleberry Finn.
Okay.
And it really caught my eye because we were talking about, you know, looking at the past and thinking about the past and what makes it authentic and different things. And one person was saying that Huckleberry Finn needed to be canceled. Like it should not be read in schools. We should not be reading it anymore. And they were really talking about the content, the language in particular. And
it is apparently number 14 on the banned books list. Harry Potter is number 1, in case you're interested.
So yeah, apparently it's a banned book and they think it should be banned. And what came after that was a conversation of several people coming to Huckleberry Finn's defense. And their biggest point was if you put Huckleberry Finn in its time period. So think about what was going on culturally in the time it was written. The language that
1885, if you need some context.
All right, 1885. So well over 100 years ago.
Right.
If you put it in the culture of what was happening, the language that was used, everything that was going on at the time this book was written, it is like just radically progressive.
And yes, actually, Mark Twain received a lot of death threats for this book, is my understanding.
Yes. So when you put it in its place, they were talking about how it needs to be studied, but it needs to be studied in context because you realize how things have changed over time when you realize that when it was published, this book was radically disruptive.
Correct. And I really like what you said about you need to put it in context because I think there's a lot of things in life that we take out of context and throw at one another as jabs and barbs. Bible verses come to mind.
Yes.
If they are not looked at in context, you actually are missing the fuller, bigger picture. And people are really quick to say, well, Huckleberry Finn is such a racist book. Mark Twain was such a racist. And actually, if you read it, Mark Twain was not a racist. Mark Twain was saying that there exists currently a world where a black man and a white boy cannot be friends. They can be friends from Huck's point of view, but they cannot be friends from Jim's. And that was an incredibly, like, as you said, progressive idea for the people of post-Civil War America.
We got to talking about it and got to looking, and there is an article from the Post-Gazette that was an op-ed article from, I think it's 2016, but it talks a lot about this exact thing, about how Huckleberry Finn needs to be taught as it was written, with context and sensitivity to the fact that it's going to be very difficult for modern people to read. But when you look at it in the context of the language that Mark Twain knew, the language that all of his readers would know, and he wrote his message in a way that they would be able to understand it. And they did understand it, and a lot of them did not like it. And we need to understand that that's what was happening at that time period. Now, I think this is very different than, because you and I are both authors, we talk to authors who write in historical. I'm a historical author.
Correct.
And I struggle sometimes with the fact that, okay, the language of what would have been said at the time is not what I can write today. I can't use well, that's what they would have said and make it okay to publish that today.
I think too, it's because it goes back to that context thing. Mm-hmm. Mark Twain wrote in 1885 in the language of the people in 1885. A book now that is being written in 2021 that is set in 1885, while it may strive for historical accuracy, at the same time, the context of that story is how it is viewed through our 21st century lens.
Yes. And I think there's a lot of things we tend to not put in context. So for example, Jane Austen.
I do love Jane Austen.
I love Jane Austen too, but I also know a whole lot more about that period than the average reader does.
You probably do. I would think so.
And so I read Jane Austen slightly differently than the average reader does. And I will tell you that Jane Austen was very snarky.
Oh, yes, she was super, super sarcastic.
There was a lot of commentary about her society that she lived in and the people that were around her in her books. So part of the popularity of her writing was that it was, you know, it was a little scandalous.
I imagine it was very scandalous.
You know, because it was kind of, you know, poking fun at some things and revealing some things and really looking at society in some ways. And so, you know, when you put it in context, it makes it, in her case, it makes it even better. You know, I enjoy her books now that I have a much deeper knowledge of what she's talking about.
Right.
I enjoy them more now than I did when I first read her as a teenager in high school. Mm-hmm. That's really important that we put that context around. But the other thing it made me think about is, it's one thing when we do this to books, which we can talk a whole lot about how we've gone from having banned book week to banning books. Now there's a whole scandal in the general market romance bookstagram world, which is probably very few of our listeners have that. Just know it's a subset of readers that are connected on social media. And they had this whole thing where they wanted to cancel some authors based on some of their political views. They wanted to cancel their books because they didn't like some authors' views on different social situations. And so there was a discussion of, well, reading is neutral. The book should be judged for the book, not this other stuff.
And I should not be judged as a reader for reading a book that you may disagree with.
Yes. And so it just made it, the whole context was that we've gone from celebrating banned book week to banning books.
Such an oxymoron.
And on books, it's an interesting discussion. But when you start thinking about it in the terms of people, it can be a very sad discussion.
It can be a very sad discussion. And I think, you know, you and I had a chat earlier this weekend. One of the things I kind of pivoted off something you had said about how we love to say, well, there's a room at the table for everyone. There's room at the table for everyone. But it seems like oftentimes we don't really mean that. What we really mean is there's room at the table for people I like, who agree with me, who support my opinions. But there's not room at the table for your opinion. And because there's not room at my table for your opinion, there's no room at your table for my opinion. And now we're all seated at different tables and we are not getting along.
Yes. And so I think it's that where we go back to, if you don't agree with me, I think that's a great description. You don't get a seat at my table because you and I disagree on this. So therefore you don't get to sit here. You know, it makes me think of, like, you know, the cliched high school lunchroom.
Oh, we are our whole world is a high school lunchroom right now.
There is this idea of not just you don't get to sit with us, but I don't want you to have a chair at all.
And I don't want you to share your opinion at all. So I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to take from you what voice you may have.
And so it's really interesting when you talk about cancel culture, which, if you have never heard the term cancel culture, the idea of it is that as a society, we decide you have done something that is not acceptable, you're done. You can't have your position in society, in your job, in whatever position of authority you hold, you're not allowed to have it anymore. And when we start talking about it happening on a large scale, it can happen very publicly.
And or embarrassingly,
people lose jobs. There was very famously a person who made a tweet that was not, and some of you may be thinking, oh, I know the story. You could be thinking of several different stories. They posted a tweet, not a very wise tweet. Okay. But the thing about Twitter is, you may think, or any social media, you may think, I only have 500 something followers, but all it takes is someone sharing it to someone who shares it to someone who shares it. And that's how things go viral. And when something that's not good about you goes viral, then the upcry can be to cancel this person. So people who have seen this tweet may not know anything else about this person, but they're looking up where they work, calling their job, trying to get them fired. And then it's no longer viral. It's no longer the buzzword, but that person is still fired. Let me get a specific example, because we can talk generalities and that gets very vague. But here's a specific example. And I really like this one because I learned about it through a person I follow on social media named Carlos Whitaker. Now, Carlos Whitaker is Black. He is very vocal about racial issues and, you know, bringing people together. And so learning about it from him was a very interesting thing, because what happened is there was a country music singer named Morgan, I think it's Wallen.
Okay.
And he was recorded using, there was a video of him that was released with him using a racial slur. And he was canceled. Music pulled from the radio, shows canceled, appearances canceled, you know, like he was dropped from award shows, like everything gone. Mm-hmm. And he kind of looked around and went, whoa, whoops. And he went through a whole process of like a year of educating himself and learning, like, why is it a problem to speak this way? And what does it make other people feel like? And he had a public apology that was very authentic, to call back to the last episode, because people could see the change over time. They were able to watch him learn, and he is now making music again. And I followed this whole story through Carlos Whitaker, which was very interesting lens to watch it through. But he was able to be canceled and then come back because he's a public figure and people were publicly watching him. But I think we are really quick to cancel people based on one thing that we know about them. And there's no way for them to come back because they don't have a platform to show their apology or show their growth.
Right. And they don't have people with an investment in seeing them come back. I love that you said earlier, when you're on a small scale, you don't have the people behind you who can then help you recover from what you've done. And oftentimes you do wind up basically not existing to those people anymore.
There's lots of people who you can go back and look and find, and they have no social media footprint because they can't. If they pop up on social media, it's going to come back to bite them. So they are living super small, quiet lives. And maybe they had big, huge dreams, and those are just gone from them. There was a movie on Netflix. I think it came out last year. I think it was called Feel the Beat. It was about a dancer who screwed up on Broadway. She insulted the wrong person, somebody who's very powerful.
Oh, my kids watched this movie. It's very good. You should watch it with your family.
It's a cute movie. It's a cute movie. And she had to go home in shame because there was nothing left for her. Her dream was dead. Now, of course,
this is the small worlds where we can shut you out now.
We can shut you out because you messed with the wrong person. Nobody wants to get on their bad side. We can shut you out now. And of course, this is movie land. So door opened for her to be able to come back. And
she learned all sorts of things from all these people that she thought were podunk in her hometown, of course. Yes. And there was a high school boyfriend.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so there was all the things that there normally are. Very cliched movie.
But well done.
But well done. And, you know, she manages to get everything, you know, the boy and the job and the dream and the kid, like everything at the end.
Spoiler alert, women. You generally can't have it all.
You can't have it all. And it's also very, very rare to be able to come back from truly being canceled on that small scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing that disturbs me the most about that is that when we cancel somebody, when we say, you're done, you're dead to me, there is no room for growth on our side from learning from somebody who sees things differently than us, but also no room for redemption on their side.
We have shut off the opportunity for them to be able to apologize, to make amends, to correct whatever was done. We've shut it down and said, nope, we're done. We're done with you.
I mean, how often do we hear about people who have this amazing opportunity that lands in their laps and then it gets removed because somebody went and dug up something they said 10 years ago?
Oh, so many. We have seen this play out over and over again on, you know, the huge political fronts, but also on smaller fronts, you know, with movie stars, with authors, with, you know, celebrities of any type. People love to try and find something that is going to make people suddenly change their view of you and decide that you might not be worth their time. And in effect, you are canceled.
And there's no room for growth. I am not the same person I was 10 years ago.
Oh, me either. Absolutely.
And I would probably crawl under the table if I saw some of the things I said 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know some of the things I've said 10 years ago that I might have argued quite passionately. I
Right.
know I have changed my view on. And if those words were to come back and haunt me, it would be like no amount of me saying, yeah, that was then. I get it differently now. Nobody's going to believe me because that's what everybody says when you get caught. And I just wish we would stop. And I guess this is where I would encourage people to edit their lives personally instead of just going along with what is the way our society works right now, is to stop assuming one mistake completely defines a person.
I like that. One mistake does not define you. Whatever that mistake may be, whatever that, no matter how public or private it was, that one problem does not define you.
I mean, we would hate to be defined by a single mistake.
I would. I've made a lot of them.
Yeah. I beat myself up enough about mistakes that I have made in life. I don't need anybody else joining that party.
For sure. And I think when we are quick to keep, like, let's go back to Huck Finn as an example. It is arguably the great American novel. That's what it's been called to me. That's what it's been called my whole life. And I'm not going to tell you there aren't better books out there, because I'm sure that there probably are, or at least books of equal caliber. But the reason that it was heralded in that way is because it really did make us as a society, whether you're reading it now or you read it, 100 years ago, which obviously you didn't. But
somebody did.
It makes us question something about ourselves. And I think the reality is people don't like that. They don't like to see somebody do something that they know that they themselves potentially have been guilty of doing. Mm-hmm. And so they are, we're really quick to try and shut that down. We're quick to shut down anything that makes us question whether or not the world we live in might be not perfect.
I think that that's exactly right, because what happens is we might complain about somebody attacking and canceling somebody who we agree with, but then we in the very loose term of society will be real quick to do it to somebody on the quote unquote other side.
Right.
Like, I think about when I was a kid, there was this whole big hoopla, but because there was no social media or whatever, it died because it didn't really go anywhere, where the Southern Baptist Convention,
they wanted us to cancel Disney.
They were telling parents, don't buy Disney movies for your kids. Don't go to Disney. You know what all the parents did? They looked at it and went, no.
Right.
But because they didn't have social media in the time, like, that really kind of died. But that was my first experience of somebody saying to cut something off. And I think if you personally decide, I can't shop there, I can't buy that, that's fine. That's not what I'm talking about here, of you making personal decisions based on the ethics of a company or the ethics of a product. I'm saying when you go out and say, everybody else has to do this too, is when it starts becoming a problem, because then you've decided everybody has to be like me or you don't get a chair.
And that's where we're going with this conversation, is to really think about what it means to cancel someone or to cancel something.
And if it's not okay one way, if you, like, it goes back to that whole treat others the way you would like to be treated. Mm-hmm. And if it's not okay to do it in one direction, it's not okay in any direction. Like, it's not okay for you to do it to the other side. It's not okay for the other side to do it to you either. I think we need to allow more room for disagreement and discussion instead of just shutting down the option that we might be wrong or that there might be a middle area.
Exactly. I really feel like if people would say, I found this offensive and I found it offensive for these reasons, mm-hmm. it would help people to better understand where they are coming from so that they can correct behavior.
And I think that discussion opens up opportunity for growth on both sides. I think the more we try to understand people we disagree with, instead of just shutting them out, the more that we will all grow as a people. Now, caveat here, there's a line, okay? I am not saying that you have to cross that line. I'm saying this
Everyone has their own line.
I'm saying this in very general societal terms, okay?
Right.
I do believe there is a line where it's like, nope, That's not okay. But I think we have moved that line way, way, way further than it should be.
Exactly.
As always, thank you to our patrons. We love sharing our extra episodes with you over on Patreon. Everyone can get bonus content by following us on Instagram at A Rough Draft Life.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, review, send to a friend. We love sharing our Rough Draft Life with you.
Now go out, edit your life, and make tomorrow better than today. Okay, Enzy. Enzy. Your new name is Enzy.
Audrey called me when she was a baby. All right.